Hello everyone, it's Seji and today I will be talking about So Good They Can't Ignore You. This is a self-help book written by Cal Newport, who you might know from his other book called Deep Work. The main idea of this book is that skills trump passion in the quest to finding work that you love. So in other words, follow your passion is bad advice when you're looking for a job that you'll love. And instead it's more important to gain skills to do your job well so that you can reap the benefits from being so good they can't ignore you. I felt this book to have some good advice. I definitely do think that it was beneficial for me to read this. However, there were a lot of things that I would say rubbed me the wrong way. But first I will be talking about the things that I really liked about this book. One of the key points of the advice that I took away was actually quite straightforward. A lot of amazing jobs are rare and valuable, so in order to get them, you have to be rare and valuable yourself. And so you have to be working on unique skills that will enable you to set yourself apart from the rest. This sounds really broad, but within the book, Newport explains exactly why and how you should gain what he calls career capital, aka skills, and which pitfalls you should watch out for. For me, the most important thing was deliberate practice, which is basically practicing at the edge of your ability. You know that moment where your brain is like super uncomfortable when you're doing like a math problem or trying something really fast on, I don't know, like the violin. That's kind of like the practice you should be doing, because that is the quickest way to become better. And I really have noticed in myself, at least academically, when things get hard, I'm kind of like, I can't do this, and kind of like give up. And basically what I should be doing is just pushing through, and eventually I'll get it. There was a lot more advice that I took away, but those were really for me the two major points. What I didn't like about this book was the length. I felt that it could be cut down by at least 50 pages, if I'm being honest. There is a lot of repetition within the book. Newport introduces a lot of rules as well as concepts which he first introduces, and then they get summarized at the end of the chapter or part of the book, and then afterwards they still pop up like later on in the book, and then they get explained as well. So I felt that was a bit overkill for me. Another thing that kind of irked me was the constant name dropping and the seemingly importance of prestige. The amount of times that it was mentioned in the examples that people went to MIT or did their PhD at Harvard was countless. We're constantly reminded that these people, including the author, really went to Ivy League universities. And I do understand that that shows that they're doing things right. But it's so unnecessary to repeatedly mention it, because it starts sounding very boastful and self-congratulatory. Driven by this insight, while my classmates contemplated their true calling, I went seeking opportunities to master rare skills that would yield big rewards. I started by hacking my study skills to become as efficient as possible. This took one semester of systematic experiments and subsequently earned me 3 consecutive years of a 4.0 grade point average, a period during which I never pulled an all-nighter and rarely studied past dinner. I then cashed in this asset by publishing a student advice guide. These experiences helped me build an exciting student life. I was, I imagine, the only student on Dartmouth's campus taking regular calls from his literary agent, but neither came from the pursuit of pre-existing passion. It was these type of passages that kind of made me cringe, because it really seemed like the author felt so much more enlightened than the rest of his peers. I mean, there are a lot of people who are studying at the university and who also have a book deal. And also, it's not like everyone who is following their passion is completely failing. I mean, there are a lot of people who actually did follow their passion and became wildly successful. Another thing was that the examples that Newport used were of men who were mostly white and middle or upper class. And I feel like if those are the examples that you're going to use, the least you could do is acknowledge the disproportionate amount of privilege that white men have. Not everyone has the same amount of opportunities due to race, gender, social class, and many more factors. I mean, there is a reason why the socio-economic makeup of all these Ivy Leagues are rather homogeneous. There was also a lot of oversimplifications, jumping very quickly to conclusions. Among young people, the group perhaps most concerned with the role of work in their lives, 64% now say that they're actively unhappy in their jobs. This is the highest level of dissatisfaction ever measured for any group over the full 2-decade history of the survey. In other words, our generation-spanning experiment with passion-centric career planning can be deemed a failure. The more we focus on loving what we do, the less we end up loving it. I don't understand how you can say now more young people are unhappy with their jobs, so following your passion is bad advice. It's also so unsubstantial to base your conclusion on statistics of one research. The statistics, of course, are not clear-cut, as other factors play a role in declining workplace happiness, literally dismantling his own point. The title was very catchy as well as the rules, but I feel like the advice really reads as hard fact. Yes, following your passions solely isn't the best advice, but I also don't think that completely discarding your passions and just only focusing on skills to get better at a job is great advice either, especially if you're someone who doesn't care all that much about prestige. What I personally have come to find is that balance is the key, which it is with most things. I think it's actually good to explore your pre-existing passions, but I also feel that it is important to critically assess the viability of actually exploring your passions career-wise. For instance, it's way easier getting a job in engineering than it is to get one in top sports. So in the end, what I really took away from this book is that it's very important to focus on skills that will allow you to have great jobs. But for me, it's also very important to make sure that I'm passionate about them as well. That's everything I had to say with regards to So Good They Can't Ignore You. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.